now. All right, I think we are live. The button has been hit. Welcome, everybody, to the Xbox 2 podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Rand L. Thor 19, the man with the million. And with me, as always, who is having a fantastic day, a fantastic week, a fantastic month, because the Surface phone is here. Jez Corden of Windows Central. What is going on, buddy?
Pretty good, man. Rocking and rolling. I've had a really good week. Not just because of the Surface phone, but like Minecon was huge as well, and just feels like I've had a pretty productive week, man. How have you been?
I've been all right. I was sick the other day, which I will tell you about, because it was a really rough day. But honestly, yesterday, watching Twitter, seeing what Brad Sams was tweeting, and when they did the one more thing after the one more thing, my heart went out.
They did that.
My heart went out for my buddy Jez, because you're such a Windows Phone fan, and I was like, here's the Surface phone. Oh my God! My first thought was honestly, Jez must be through the roof at this point, huh?
My girlfriend actually filmed my reaction, and it was just like, those like great E3 moments, like when they announced Killer Instinct and stuff like that, and you probably remember Maximilian Dude's video where he's going like, oh my God, Killer Instinct. It was kind of like that. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they made a phone, because we all thought it was cancelled. Everyone in the tech industry thought the phone was cancelled, but no, it isn't cancelled. It's here, and also they teased Project xCloud during the video, so it's like a double. Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
It was a great day.
We'll definitely talk more in depth about that stuff, but it's been a pretty interesting week. A lot of crazy stuff going on, Jez, like Xbox Scarlett rumors, the return of Kinect, cameras for streamers. Nobody knows anything about PlayStation 5. A power struggle at PlayStation between Jim Ryan and Shawn Layden. Shawn Layden leaving? Was he fired? Did he retire? PlayStation Now suddenly getting changed? Price cuts? Exclusives being added? Crossplay out of beta? Like, what is going on? Like, what is happening?
It's been a crazy week for news. It's just been insane. But I like that. Keeps you productive. Keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, exactly. Gives you stuff to talk about instead of like the usual like, well, but like, yeah, this is absolutely just ridiculous. Yeah. So, but before we get into all that, as everybody kind of files into the room, make sure you guys hit the like button and subscribe and share this podcast out, because we gotta do Google's job for them, because they don't do a good job at it. I don't know. So
we like Google now.
We do like Google. Oh yeah, because the Surface phone is an Android.
Yes. Nah, we still don't like Google.
Oh no.
But never mind. How have you been, man? You said you were sick. Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
Or am I going?
So I got Ghost Recon early, right?
Yes.
And so I was playing it Monday morning, because as you probably have noticed, there are no reviews for Ghost Recon, right? It launched on Monday night for the $120 version Ultimate or the $100 Gold Edition, right?
Mm-hmm.
But no reviews, because it was like Division, it was like Destiny. It's like an online-only game. Does it need to be online only, Jez? Absolutely not. There's no reason the game needs to be online only. Like I played it for like 15 hours now. Nah, no reason for it to be online only. But it is, so there's no reviews because the servers didn't go up till Monday. So I played it a whole bunch Monday morning and Monday night. And man, I had like this headache building. So I'm playing with my buddy Maka and my buddy Gopher. And my headache just, I don't know, it just started like pounding. And I'm like, I gotta stop playing. So I stopped playing, and I'm like...
Is it that bad?
I mean, yeah, my head was literally pounding. And I'm like, man, Ghost Recon's...
I mean the game.
Well, yeah, it's like Ghost Recon's making my head just pound. So I take some Tylenol, I try to lay down, and suddenly, like, I just start, like, sweating, like, profusely. And I have a fan. So, like, I have the fan blowing on me. I'm sweating. I start all of a sudden getting drowsy. I get up, and I'm sitting there in the kitchen trying to cool off. and like I'm just taking these like deep breaths, like yawning, and then all of a sudden I started feeling sick to my stomach, and I just throw up everywhere.
Oh, nice.
And then I start, and then
Thanks,
I immediately feel better. Headache was gone,
Yeah.
and I wasn't sick anymore, so I was able to go back to bed. But yeah, Ghost Recon made me sick. Made me literally sick to my stomach to the point where I was praying to the porcelain god.
Well, you could include that in the review. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, I know.
Ghost Recon made me physically sick.
Made me physically ill, but I played it more since then, and dude, I gotta tell you, okay. You know how like fanboys can like, some of them are pretty bad. Like you say something about Xbox, and you'll get PlayStation fans coming in there and be like, "Xbox done," you know, like the stupid comments. And then the same thing for like any other brand. Like you say something about Google, and here come the Apple fanboys, right? Like their product's always better than your product, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can't, how dare you say something bad about mine, right? So in my initial tweet about Ghost Recon, I was like, yo, I hope nobody bought this game for $60, let alone 120, right? And dude, the Ubisoft fans came at me hard.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. They were like, how dare you tell us what to think? I'm like, I'm not telling anybody what to think. I'm just like, I don't think this game's worth the money at this point. Dude, I didn't know there was, what are we calling them? Ubi stands? Ubi something like, but dude, they came in force. I was surprised. I thought maybe there weren't like on the level of like really like ardent like PS4 Xbox defenders, right? Where like they can't do anything wrong. They're
I
like,
didn't know Ubisoft had fanboys like that.
They do. Apparently, Ubisofties is what OBJ says. Yeah, it's weird, man. Like they came at me, and I had to mute the whole thread because I'm like, I'm done reading all this stuff. But before we get into topics, Jez, I figure we talk about what we played. What have you been playing this past week?
Well, I actually feel kind of overwhelmed because we've had Borderlands 3, which I've barely played, and I want to play just for the experience. Then we had Ghost Recon Breakpoint, which I also want to play just to learn about it and stuff. I still barely play Gears 5, which I feel really bad about because I love Gears, and I'm still addicted to Monster Hunter, and I've been playing that. I just got Frostpunk for Xbox to review, so I've been playing that. I can't really talk about it though. But for those who don't know, Frostpunk is a post-apocalyptic strategy game, which is huge on PC, and now it's coming to Xbox and PS4. So if you're interested in strategy games and post-apocalypse and stuff like that, definitely keep that on your radar. But Rand, I've been playing is it Link's Awakening? I can never remember if it's called Link's Awakening or Link to the Past. But
yeah, the Switch game, right?
The Q retro Switch game. That's kind of what I've been sort of playing right now. I just love it. Like I never played the original. And Nintendo did such a great job of just turning this classic game into a nice, fun, cute, little sort of top-down dungeon crawler sort of game. I've been so impressed with it. Like it's so simple and accessible, but also it's still got that sort of depth that you kind of want at a certain age. I don't know. It's just great. Oh, and also, Brand, I've been playing God of War on PlayStation 4, kind of, for the first time, but via PlayStation Now.
Okay. I did see your tweet about the PlayStation Now God of War thing, which I guess we'll talk about when we talk about the PlayStation Now changes. You can talk about your impressions.
Oh, and I've been playing The Last of Us as well. So basically, I've been playing everything but Xbox recently. I've got to the you
sound like a true gamer, man. Playing everybody. I mean, Xbox got games. Of course.
I'm a neutral. But is winter the last part of The Last of Us?
So it starts off in summer. So it goes summer, fall, spring, winter.
Goes back to spring.
Summer, fall, winter, spring. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I've still got spring to go then. I'm glad then. So I just got to winter, and I'm not going to spoil it for anyone who hasn't played it like me. But I just, the more I play it, the more I think it's my perfect game. You know,
It
honestly,
is one of the best games of last gen, for sure. I didn't
it's just
play it
perfect.
until I got a PlayStation in 2017, and at that point in time, it was the best PlayStation game I have ever played. And like, I honestly think the only PlayStation game that's better than it or equal footing to it is the new God of War. And that,
But
obviously, like we're talking
it's the
like,
characters, I think, more than anything.
well, not yeah, Naughty
Like
Dog. Naughty Dog's very good at making characters and dialogue
I
and
love
some
I love
set
the
pieces. You know.
a lot, whenever I talk about The Last of Us, I always get like some people saying, "I hate the gameplay; it's slow and sluggish and stuff." But I love that. Like I love planning and executing. Like I got the sort of feeling with Prey. Like I think people who tried to play Prey like it was Doom, they enjoyed it a lot less than me and or someone who played it more like a stealth game. Because I really do think Prey was intended to be played like a sort of stealth planning, sort of strategic more shooter. And I kind of play The Last of Us like that as well. And I absolutely love that gameplay, but it's the dialogue and the characters and just their believability and stuff like that. I'm not going to go into it too much because again, like I'm really lucky that I never had any spoilers for The Last of Us all this time. So I don't want to spoil it if anyone else hasn't played it, but there's a villain that pops up in the winter section, and within like a few interactions, he's more hateable already compared to some villains that are sort of like through the whole game. Do you know what I mean? Like the writing on this dude is so good that I hate him a lot more, and he's more memorable than some of the villains that are like the main villains of some of the other games out there. Like I always rail on Ubisoft for their villains because they're so boring and unmemorable a lot of the time. Sometimes they're cool, but a lot of the Ubisoft like Assassin's Creed open world villains, I just don't even remember them. But I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I
that
just
even
really love
goes
it.
for some of Naughty Dog's villains on the Uncharted franchise. Like,
I've never really played
I
them.
can barely remember who the villain was on Uncharted 1 or Uncharted 2 or Uncharted 3. I mean, I know who the villain was in 4, but like they're just kind of there. They just fill a void. But yeah, I get what you're saying. You know, you did put out a tweet saying that you were super excited about an unannounced strategy game that you just heard about
Yes,
or whatever.
I can't talk about it, but like if you love strategy games and you know just there's something really awesome coming. Like in the vein, I'll say it's in the vein of Frostpunk. It's not Frostpunk 2 or anything like that. But if you like Frostpunk, you're gonna love what this dev I've heard about is working on.
Interesting, interesting.
Just the name and the dev made me excited. So that's cool to look out for. Um, Other than that, it's just same old man. Just Monster Hunter here and there. Mostly just been working. Like Minecon and Surface was huge. What have you been playing then? You've been playing Ghost Recon, which we know
Yeah,
about.
yeah. So I finished Borderlands, which I think we talked about in the last show. I put out my review for it. You know, I'm happy. I played through it, gave it like an 8. I do think Borderlands 2 is better. I think Borderlands 2 had better missions, better writing, better villains. I think 3 has
Villains are
better
important.
gunplay and better environments. So it's kind of like a toss up there. But I enjoyed my time, especially for a game I had no interest in playing. I put 50 hours into, you know, got to like level 44. Enjoyed
Man,
enjoyed my
I
time
wish
with
I
it.
had time.
Yeah, that's just over a course of like 2 weeks or whatever. So after that, I was kind of waiting for Ghost Recon, so I played a smaller game called Creature in the Well, which I'll have a video up real soon about, probably tomorrow.
Hmm.
It's on Xbox Game Pass, and it's pretty goddamn unique, Jez, because
Is it good though?
it's like a third person like action pinball game. It's so weird to describe what it's like because you're a robot and you're trying to turn on this like weather station, like these different controls because there's this creature in this well, clearly name of the fucking game, right?
Oh
But
my god, demonetized.
I know, demonetized already, but you have to power up the station and it's set up like a pinball arena. Like you have like this energy ball and you power up these bumpers. It's incredibly kind of hard to like actually talk about without actually showing video to go along with it.
Yeah, you know what? I was actually just literally thinking that right now. Like, wouldn't
Yeah,
it be nice if our podcast had a video as
I
well?
really liked it, and we'll probably will do something like that where we do video in the podcast. But like, yeah, look for that review tomorrow, probably, or Saturday, whenever I get a chance around to making it. I actually quite enjoyed it. It's in Game Pass. It's like one of those games where you couldn't say, yeah, definitely pick it up for $20, but it's like, you got Game Pass, check it out. I mean, it's a 5-hour game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But the main game I've been playing this week has been Ghost Recon Breakpoint. And okay, so I started off, I didn't like anything about the game. Obviously, it made me sick, like I mentioned earlier in the little story. It got me sick. I was so, yeah. But the more I play the game, the more I do enjoy it. The stealth gameplay elements, playing with my buddy in co-op, it's really fun when you fly into a base. You kind of land outside. You use your drone to mark all the different targets, and then you silently just execute your plan and like kill 30 people without anybody even knowing you were there. That stuff is incredibly fun because the gunplay is really good. It's just that almost everything else surrounding the game is pretty bad. Like, the story, god awful. And I truly mean god awful. The dialogue, poorly written, not only poorly written, but poorly voice acted. Like, the animations and the cutscenes reminds me a lot of Mass Effect Andromeda. Soulless eyes, weird, like kind of camera like placement. It makes it seem like it was completely amateurish. And the only time it's actually worth listening to or worth watching is when John Berthenol, the main character who plays the main villain, Hollywood actor, is actually on screen. You have his stuff where he's like in the present, which is pretty interesting when he's on screen, and then the stuff with like him in the past, which is good. The rest of the stuff, it's absolutely 100% terrible, right? Absolutely terrible. And this is coming from a person who likes to watch cutscenes and have dialogue with other people, talk to as many people as I possibly can, and I don't want to do any of that in this game because it's so poorly freaking done and there's so much of it, right? All the main missions and all the missions have like the same structure. They want you to go somewhere. Then usually it's 5 kilometers away because the map is absolutely huge. So you gotta jump on a helicopter. You better get used to, figuring out how to fly a helicopter because the map's so huge. You're gonna have to go from one spot that's 5 kilometers away to a spot that's 10 kilometers away. You know what I mean? So you fly in a helicopter. You go to where you need to go. Kill the people there. You get intel, and then the intel will tell you to go somewhere else. You get back in your helicopter. You fly over to the next base. You talk to somebody there, and they're like, "Okay, the thing you need is over in this other place." So you get back in your helicopter, you fly back over to the other base, and you get the thing there, but then, he needs something over in this other base. Literally every mission is just like that, right?
I have to say, Rand, you're not selling me on this game right now.
Well, I wouldn't recommend this game at $60 or 120 or 100. It's got its issues. Like I said, the gunplay and the stealth stuff, really good. How it looks, like the world itself, I like the architectural design of this kind of like futuristic world 2.0 that they're building there with the drones. That stuff's really cool. But perhaps the biggest like thing, and because it's all surrounds this whole microtransaction thing. Like microtransactions are this big, huge outrage everywhere. Like if there's like a huge scandal, you can always bet on like the big YouTubers making a video and they're just, oh my god, look how greedy all these corporations are, right? And we'll probably talk about the gear stuff later, but I watch Young Ye, I watch the Layman Gaming, I watch Jim Sterling, like they all put out the same video basically trashing the game because of the microtransactions, because it's just like any other Ubisoft game, because you can buy guns, you can buy skill points, you can buy upgrades for guns. You can buy, vehicles and helicopters. You can buy fake money with real money that you spend in game. And the thing with that is, the microtransactions are absolutely 100% useless. Like 100%. Like as someone who's played the game for 15 hours, like it's all useless because they give you so much stuff in the game. Like I have 80,000 credits. I have no idea what to spend it on, right? And the way the game is set up, they included the loot structure of Division 2, where every 2 minutes, and I'm not joking around, you will find a better piece of gear, whether it's a helmet, a chest piece, gloves, boots, that is better than the one you have, right? So that increases your gear score. Yeah, they included gear score in Ghost Recon Breakpoint for whatever reason. It's fucking there. It's stupid. It's complete illusion. It doesn't make any sense. And it's just tacked on completely, in my opinion, to sell you the microtransactions, which don't even freaking matter. Like, it's all an illusion. And I'm going to explain why, right? So... So you play, you get a weapon. The weapon is 85 gear score, it's assault rifle. You'll keep on playing, and 5 minutes later, you're going to assault rifle that's an 88. So it's better, right? When you actually go to the microtransactions and you buy a weapon bundle, and it's for the blueprints for the weapons, all those blueprints are in the game for you to find, right? They'll just giving you the option of, like, not finding them, and then you can craft the weapons. However, they're not pay to win, because the weapons craft at the level you are in the game. And since it's a game where you're literally finding stuff that's better the moment you step out of your base, the thing you just bought and crafted is going to be useless in 5 minutes. So all the all the microtransaction stuff is just a big freaking illusion, because there is no pay to win. It's like, I bought this assault rifle blueprint, and I'm level 35, so it's level 35. You go outside of your base, and you have a level 40, assault rifle in 5 minutes. It's a gigantic joke what Ubisoft has done with the microtransaction, and it's like that for everything. Now, I guess you could say there is, like, you can buy skill points in the game. There's like money to buy like 60 of them. You can buy I think it's like $50 to buy 60 skill points, and you can plot them all in there or whatever. And that might, you could say, okay, but like a lot of those skill points, a lot of those perks are disabled for PvP anyways. So it wouldn't really matter, and this is a co-op game. I'm just saying, like, the game has its problems. Like, the whole gear score loot system is completely tacked on, because all the enemies die in a single headshot, Jazz. Whether you're level 10 or whether you're level 130. You'll get a gun, a sniper rifle, and there's an enemy that doesn't have a helmet on, that enemy is dying immediately. Doesn't matter what level you are. And even like the wolves, right, that are level 150, you can take them on at level 40 because they're just humans. So if you shoot them twice in the face and knock their helmet off, they die. The only kind of bullet spongy enemies in the game are these drones. So they've created this mechanic that is essentially pointless. And it fulfills the entire, it's like in the entire like structure of the game, because every single one of these bases you go to has a chest for you to find that gives you better loot. It's so weird that they did this. But that has been my my kind of experience with Ghost Recon Breakpoint, though.
It's like Ubisoft need to do something about their copy-paste formula, because it's getting to the point where I'm just sort of fed up of their whole formula. And if you're fed up of their whole formula, then that makes all of their games unappealing. They need to stop doing this, because I feel like it's not sustainable. Do you know what I mean? Like, they constantly make all their games the same as each other. Like, where's the incentive to, like... If Ghost Recon Breakpoint is the same as Division 2, and I'm bored of Division 2, why would I play Ghost Recon Breakpoint?
I mean, they're similar. Obviously, Division 2 is urban setting, no vehicles, third-person cover shooting, bullet sponge enemies. And the gear makes sense in that game because you want to kill the enemies faster, because they don't all die in a single shot. So getting better gear allows you to take down the enemies faster. In Ghost Recon, getting better gear doesn't matter at all, because you can kill the enemies just as fast as you always could. And upgrading your guns, like from Mark level 1 to level 2 and level 3, they don't have any tangible effects, really, because everything dies just as fast as it always does. So doing all that stuff is pointless. The whole system is completely pointless. So when I watch videos from YouTubers I like railing on the microtransactions using the same screenshot from the same person on Reddit, all of them did, right? Every single one of those guys. And I like Young A, I like the Layman Gaming, I really like Skill Up, I like Jim Sterling. They all use the same screenshot from the same dude on Reddit, and they're railing on the game. And I'm playing the game, and I'm like, well, number one, it's not pay to win. Like, and I thought to myself, do they even know, like, how the game operates? Because if they did, they would know if you buy the blueprint and craft it, you're gonna find something better 2 minutes later, and you're gonna not use that gun. It's almost like Ubisoft is literally enticing you to waste your money, because what you buy will be outdated in literally 5 minutes. You know what I mean? And
Okay.
like, cause you get so much stuff, Jeb. I ain't kidding around. Like, you go to a base, you kill all the enemies, there'll be 3 drops from the enemies, which will give you weapons or gear. There'll be like 6 different chests, which will have weapons and gear. You're always getting stuff. So I don't understand, why would anybody want to spend money on the microtransactions or anything? And they give you so many credits. Like, I get like 90,000 credits, and it's like, I can buy any vehicle I want. I can buy a helicopter if I want, and then you can always spawn helicopters at the fast travel points. So it's like, why would anybody spend money on any of this stuff? It doesn't make any sense. And it's just, I think it's just Ubisoft trying to make a quick buck by people who have no clue what's going on. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it changes in the end game, because I'm not at the end game yet. I'm like level gear score like 115, but that's been kind of my whole experience with the game. The stealth and gameplay is really tight. I like, I like stealthily taking out bases, but the rest of the core stuff surrounding the game is just badly done and shouldn't be there. So I really wouldn't get the game unless it was like $20 at this point. We'll see. I'm gonna finish it. We'll see if it gets any better. But yeah, it's got issues, but it does. There are some things that are okay about it, and I am enjoying playing in co-op with my buddy Gopher, because we do everything stealth, and that is fun. But I think eventually we'll just hit a brick wall where it's just like, it's, like, we were even kind of making fun of the mission structure last night. Like, oh, I wonder what base they're going to send us to next. And it was like literally that over and over again. But anyways, we kind of ranted a little bit enough about Ghost Recon, but it is the new game out there. So let's get into what you said to me last night on Twitter. You called me clickbait. You said, holy clickbait, Batman. You of all people came to me, and you're like, my God, Rand, what are you doing?
You of all people? What does that mean?
I mean, I don't clickbait that often, So what are we talking about here? So there was a article posted yesterday, or was it the day before? 2 days ago? It was posted on Monday, because I put the video out it was posted on Tuesday. I put the video out Wednesday, and we're talking about it today, about Xbox Scarlett and PlayStation 5 info from a tipster that Gizmondo felt that they had a good feeling about. And when it pertained to Scarlett, they were talking about how the PlayStation 5 and Scarlett will have the biggest compute jump in the history of console gaming or console generations. But like, that wasn't even the most interesting part of the whole article. It was that Microsoft and Sony were planning on new cameras to sell with the systems, and Microsoft's cameras were going to be 4K and at 2 milliseconds of lag. So of course, as you guys know, I despise Kinect and everything surrounding Kinect, and what Kinect almost, like, basically, in my opinion, brought Xbox to its knees. The dark ages of Xbox, as I call it. The dark ages. I hate Kinect. So, and obviously I'm reading this article, I'm like, I don't think this is true. I made the video, I recorded it, I scheduled it for the next day, and I'm like, my title was, okay, I'll admit, my titles are, that title was extremely dramatic, for dramatic effect, right?
Dramatic effect.
Because
Is that what we call it?
because in the article they're like both
Dramatic effect.
PlayStation, dramatic effect, because both PlayStation and Microsoft are doing this. So my first thought is like, can they be this stupid? So I was like, I'm putting that as the title, and that's what it was. Can PlayStation and Xbox both be this stupid? And I was like, they're getting a camera, right? But the thing was, so after I posted the video, Microsoft actually commented on the article, which they hardly ever do about things just far away, especially like next gen stuff where it's just a rudimentary kind of emission that they're doing it, right? And they're like, yo, there's no camera. We ain't making a camera. We didn't send any cameras out to any developers. So Jez, what is going on here, man?
Well, I think like first of all, I wrote the article up, which I think gave it like some more prominence with our community or whatever. And as such, people I used Kinect in the title because I was just like, well, that's what people are going to think straight away. And also, that's the last camera Xbox made. So I'm just going to whack Kinect right in there. And instantaneously, it triggered a wave of post-traumatic stress about that whole 2013 thing. If you actually read the so-called leak, it wasn't that bad. It sounded like it was like a Snapchat camera on steroids designed for streamers, and they already have a product like this. The Kinect 3, which they only sell to enterprises, it has all these capabilities like virtual green screen, where it can detect where you are and then blur out your background so you don't have to buy a green screen. It can do things like gaze correction, where it like makes you look directly at the camera using AI processing. And I was just imagining like, oh, this makes total sense for Microsoft when they're pushing Mixer. They have an accessory where like they can, have like sort of cool 3D effects, like change your face, make you look like your Xbox avatar maybe, or your Minecraft avatar, or God knows what. It made sense to me. So I thought like Gizmodo's a reputable outlet. So if they're confident that this rumor is true, then I'm going to report it. But then Microsoft offered a flat out denial. And Microsoft rarely offers a flat out denial unless it's totally untrue. Because why would they, if they deny something that is true, you won't be able to trust their press releases anymore, because it's like, oh well, Microsoft lies. They say things aren't true when they are true. So like usually if something is true, Microsoft just won't say anything. They'll just say we don't comment on rumors and speculation, blah blah blah. But the fact they offered a flat out denial of this says to me that it's completely untrue. But I still thought it was a pretty cool idea to have a camera that had like 3D effects and stuff. But I say that as a content creator, as someone who could see that being useful for streamers and YouTubers and stuff like that, you know. But again, that's like the 0.00001% of gamers. So for that to have been bundled, that wouldn't have happened. Like I thought that was obvious that it wouldn't be bundled because it's such a small target market, right?
Yeah,
So
well, I mean, you think Kinect was the same way, but they bundled that and almost destroyed Xbox in the process. So
yeah, but that was the idea of that was that there was a bigger addressable market. They were trying to go after the Wii, audience, where like apparently motion control games are cool because look how popular the Wii was with casuals.
it was, but then look what happened after. But look what happened soon after. The Wii basically, people stopped caring about it. The Wii phenomenon died. Like kind of right around the time the Kinect and the Move controller came out from PlayStation, the Wii died a slow death because people were over the gimmick. And I think PlayStation realized that because they didn't continue, but Microsoft's like, we're gonna make a system surrounding the whole thing, and they paid the price for it.
Completely fair to Microsoft. Everyone's using an Amazon Echo speaker now, and it wasn't just the gaming angle. They were ahead of the curve. We're like, people are gonna want to control their devices with voice chat. We can hook Bing in, which is basically what Amazon has done now and popularized. Microsoft did it first, and they don't get any credit for that. But it was the positioning that was all wrong. Positioning it as bundled,
Right.
forced it on people, not giving access to developers for like years afterwards for the app side of things, really kind of screwed it up as a Alexa competitor and stuff like that. So there was no way in hell they were going to make that mistake twice, even if the peripheral was real, which apparently it isn't. So
Well, yeah,
I thought
because
that I thought that was just funny how dramatic everyone got over it. You got dramatic over it.
well, no, no,
Loads
no,
of
no.
YouTubers got dramatic. Yeah, you
Sure,
did.
sure, sure.
You
Okay,
did. You
listen.
got dramatic.
But listen,
You
okay,
were
you know,
upset. I had people coming up and mention like,
little entertainment
no,
here and there.
Kinect.
I hate Kinect, so Kinect gets my blood boiling, right?
Well, the thing is,
I
funny,
knew, I
you just bashed.
knew.
You just bashed Jim Sterling for
I didn't bash
riding the
Jim.
outrage.
I didn't bash Jim Sterling.
Not Jim Sterling, but like all those guys.
I
You
didn't
said
bash
they
them. I just said that I pointed
all
out.
use the same outrage.
I pointed, sure, but that's not exclusive to Jim Sterling or any of those guys. I mean, like, negativity sells on YouTube. I've heard this from YouTube themselves. Like, it's
YouTube say that.
yeah, YouTube used to have said that. Like, look at it. It's just the way it is, man. Negativity and outrage is something that you can monetize and form, like, an army behind. And if your YouTube channel, outrage sells more so than positivity about something. And I'm not bashing Jim Sterling or the Layman Game because I enjoy all their content. I just thought it was just weird to me as someone playing Ghost Recon at the time and seeing what everything was.
Well,
and I'm like, well,
I was just saying, like, everyone rode on that Kinect outrage, which wasn't even really outrage. It was like I had people come and saying, "Oh my god, I hate cameras," and I'm just like, your phone has a camera. This is the same sort of thing. It's just a webcam, for streamers. You don't have to buy it. Like, I couldn't believe how much stress there was about
because
this
people
bloody
hate
webcam.
Kinect. Because people saw
It
that.
wasn't
right?
like Kinect.
I
though.
understand that, but people saw that, and in most people's eyes, they equate camera with Kinect. And even in the video where I was like, I was like railing on that idea. I'm like, of course, you can send the video. Sony and Microsoft aren't dumb. They know that they can't do this. And I said I'd be fine if it was an accessory. If it's an accessory, then do it, right? If it's something that you can buy, for an extra $100, then great. But don't force me to buy that product when I don't want it. And I just kind of related it back to Kinect. Like, don't make me pay for it. Because in all honesty, like, and this goes back to the articles, because the article was like, Microsoft and Sony want to do this because they want to attract streamers to their platform. But that doesn't make any sense. Because they're not going to attract because you're not going to get a streamer who has his setup on his PC, a PC that's way better than Scarlett or PS5 ever could be, with all the different overlays and everything that they can do right there from, OBS and all that stuff, and being like, the one thing I'm missing is a 4K camera. Well, Scarlett's got a 4K camera. Well, I'm going to stream from the console. I mean, you can buy a 4K camera from Amazon for $90.
No, but my assumption was that it was going to be some kind of accessory that you could plug into Windows. Like, it wouldn't obviously be restricted to Xbox.
Well, obviously, and Microsoft allows you to plug any USB camera into your Xbox right now and use it as a webcam to stream to Mixer. So, but that whole idea, but the way they worded it was that they wanted to attract streamers, like, not implying like just some random Joe Blow with no followers who's like, I'm going to stream on Mixer today, and they stream and they have nobody watching them, implying like, hey, we want to get like, the big ones and the small ones. And it's like, I don't think so. But I mean, I had fun making the video, even though I was trying to be a little bit,
You knew it was bullshit, right?
I had an idea that it was untrue. But I mean, the source was Gizmondo, so I was like, this is what they're saying, and I was just like, they can't be this stupid, and clearly Microsoft isn't, because they came out the next day and were like, yo, this isn't freaking happening, because they know that people correlate camera with Kinect, right? I think they know that.
Well, they sure as hell do now.
Well, I don't think they needed any market research to know, like, hey, so I made the video, and yeah, the title is very dramatic, which I wanted it to be. And obviously the question's answered. Are PlayStation and Xbox that dumb? Clearly, the answer is no, because Microsoft ain't making one. But more so than that, more so than any of this stuff, what does that say about Gizmondo? Because if that one thing is wrong from their leaker, 100% wrong, does that throw in doubt the rest of what Gizmondo was saying? Like everything else about the info about everything about next gen?
Okay, so what else? What else did the article say about next gen? Because it was 4 a.m. for me, and I wrote it, and then it was out of my mind. I moved on to the next thing.
I would
So
have to go back and read it, but I know they said that both consoles would have like the largest compute jump in a generation for any like console generation. Um,
I believe that.
I forget what else. Something about ray tracing. Um, uh, like I said, I don't have the article in front of me, but it's like sometimes it's like when you get one part wrong, it's like it really throws in doubt like the rest of the information, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think it's really too early to talk about final specs and stuff like that, but there's been a lot of rumors and stuff coming out about Sony since the whole Shawn Layden thing.
Yeah,
Can we talk
Shawn
about
Layden.
that?
Let's go into that. Oh my god, dude! Like this happened. The Shawn Layden stuff is weird. Now I haven't made a video about that because I wanted to wait for more information. Sure, I could have made a video the day it happened and kind of like PlayStation executive steps down. Is the PlayStation brand in trouble or PlayStation? Some sort of really off the wall clickbait video. But I was like, okay, the way it all happened, something's going on behind the scenes. A single tweet without him tagged. He hasn't responded since then. There's no press release from Sony. Nobody is talking about it. And then and then right after it happens, they change PlayStation Now and crossplay comes out of beta. Now, some of those are things maybe aren't tied to Shawn Layden leaving. Maybe they are. But man, this is incredibly weird. I'm waiting for like the expose from like Kotaku or from one of the bigger websites to like get more in-depth information about what exactly happened here, Jez. Because did he walk into work that day and have a huge argument with somebody there and is like, you know what? Screw it. I'm out. I retire later. Did he walk in there have an argument with somebody about the way PlayStation should be structured moving forward? And they're like, you know what? You're relieved of your duty. Get out. Like,
Well,
what happened? What happened there?
Jason Schreier's on, I believe he's on paternity leave right now, which is probably why Kotaku hasn't had any more information about it. I believe. I don't know if I'm correct about that. But GameIndustry.biz had probably the most quote unquote inside information about it so far. And they based the gist of what they were saying was it was a power struggle. Now that is the general industry rumor right now. Like I asked like some of my contacts and they said they heard secondhand that it was some kind of power struggle between Shawn Layden and Jim Ryan, who was also described to me as being like Sony's Don Matrick, more like business minded, business first, consumer second sort of thing, which is why all of a sudden PlayStation Now is being pushed harder, crossplay is being pushed harder and stuff like that, is because they're good for business. Whereas Shawn Layden was a bit more old school, wanted to protect PlayStation's identity a lot more, and a lot of the contention about the evolution of PlayStation, like sort of following what Microsoft's been doing with Xbox in second place, comes more from Jim Ryan's side. Now, I have no idea if that's true. I don't have any first-hand sources on this, which is why I don't write about it. I don't write about PlayStation. It's not my area of expertise whatsoever. I'm just saying what I heard from people I very, very strongly trust. I don't think they could just fire Shawn Layden outright. Surely he's been there for 30 years. He's got contracts in place. Like surely he could sue them for unfair dismissal, because this seems like very sudden. Like it was really out of the blue. Like people I know only heard about it the weekend on the inside of the industry. Like if this was a thing that was planned longer in advance, I feel like they would have known earlier. But again, that's just my guess. I don't know. It's just so strange, man. It's so strange. I'm not really sure how to really frame it or because everything gets blurry. The further up the chain you go in a corporation, everything gets blurrier and blurrier, and the politics gets more intense and more intense. So you don't know really what the full gist of what's going on behind the scenes. But I honestly wouldn't have expected Sony could just fire Shawn Layden out of the blue after 30 years of service so unceremoniously. I would have thought like they'd need some kind of, I don't know, process to fire the guy, if he even deserved being fired, given how much Shawn Layden's responsible for Sony's massive success this generation. So for me, I think he must have probably walked.
The whole situation is weird. Like Sam Tolbert says in chat, also Sony not naming a successor and Shawn not saying anything is really, really weird. That's one thing like Sony always does when they have a change in the executive branch or someone leaving, someone going. They always say, they always have the successor right there. So it's like people know that hey, we're in a good spot. Like this is all planned out. When John Codera, when he took over, they already had his successor. It was like Jim Ryan, even though that was weird because John Codera was only in his position for a year and then took a demotion, and then Jim Ryan took a promotion. So, yeah, like obviously, I think whatever happened that day. Like you went there, something happened, and he was like, "I'm out. Like I'm done." And the way everything's kind of gone on since then, with basically complete silence, kind of speaks more to that point than this being like a planned thing where like Shawn was thinking like, you know what, I'm going to retire at some point. Like this happened, that like whatever happened, which I would love to, know. Like was it something with Jim Ryan? I don't know, because like OBJ in chat says Jim Ryan has more old school mentality than most of PlayStation if you know his history, which is true, but Jim Ryan's also been on record saying that like he likes crossplay. He wants them to go more after multiplayer games. And I wonder if that's where they kind of, him and Shawn Layden butted heads a little bit about what to do with Worldwide Studios. Because I think Shawn was very much like, he likes the single player focus, the big like cinematic storytelling type games. Where if you listen to Jim, he has kind of been more of a proponent of, and has talked recently about wanting to do more multiplayer, wanting to maybe have more like games as a service, more microtransactions to sell more PlayStation Now subscriptions. So I wonder if that kind of battle came to head. I mean, Shawn Layden also says he likes crossplay, but that's because Sony as a company was gonna do it. So like obviously as a speaking head, you got to be behind it. But like, I don't know, Jim Ryan's recently said like he wants to do more multiplayer, and I don't know if Shawn Layden was the one who wanted to do more multiplayer. So, I mean, look at this gen; they didn't really have a lot of multiplayer games. So, I don't know. I don't know what happened, Jez. It's really weird.
I think like the way it was handled, clearly something bad happened. It clearly wasn't something, above board. If it was like a proper official retirement, you would have had press releases. You would have had like, thank you PlayStation for all this, everything and all that sort of stuff. It would have been more ceremony, like, man, it should have been more ceremony. Like when Reggie left Nintendo. So it's just weird. But like, there's no way to know for sure. Like these things are kept on the wraps so very closely. We need to wait till like someone like Jason Schreier with all his industry contacts breaks some news, because I just don't know.
Jim Ryan was against backwards compatibility though. Remember? Remember like
was he against it, or was he damage controlling it?
I don't know. I mean, like I remember his comments around when the PlayStation Classic released. It was like, why would anybody want to play these old games? So I don't know. Didn't you say that like you had heard that Jim Ryan is basically the Don Matrick of PlayStation?
Yeah, I said that earlier.
Right.
I had heard that he was more business oriented and less like concerned about hardcore fans or something. But again, this is all second-hand information. Like, I don't know.
It's going to be very interesting when the full story comes out, because it eventually will come out. Somebody will get the information, and it could. I mean, we'll know for sure like what Jim Ryan was for and against, what was like public like facing stuff. Like, was he, truly against all this stuff, and was Shawn truly for all this stuff, and they just butted heads on these like all that information will come out. But in his wake though, which I don't think these two things are related. I think these two things were planned way in advance, and it just like Shawn Layden him leaving was just totally a separate thing. They changed PlayStation Now to make it more in line with most entertainment streaming subscriptions. They dropped the price by a lot, Jez. They went from $20 a month to $10, and then they offered a annual subscription from $100 to $60. Now, my question to you is that's a pretty good price. Is that going to force Microsoft to offer a yearly subscription at a reduced price for Game Pass? Because currently they do not offer that. They don't offer a yearly thing that's discounted like they do for Xbox Live Gold. If you want to get a year of Game Pass, it's $120. So is this challenge, I guess, like assuming we know what the PlayStation, that they last reported that they had 700,000 subscribers. We know Game Pass has millions. Now, whether it's 2 million or 8 million, nobody really knows. But we know it has more. So obviously, I think PlayStation Now is trying to acquire more users, which is what they're doing with the price cut and adding, PlayStation exclusives. Is that going to force Xbox? Because I love this battle because we're going to win because we'll get cheaper prices and more stuff. Is that going to force them to offer a yearly subscription?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay.
And I'll tell you why. PlayStation Now's library is terrible.
It is. Is it? Huh?
It is. Like, I subscribed with the price cut. I was like, oh, I'll give that another go. It's been a year since I tried it. And by the way, I'll talk about my experiences with that in a minute. But I went through the whole library, which, by the way, doesn't have a search function. So yeah, at least it doesn't on PC. So you have to go through every single game from A to Z. A to Z, sorry, Britain. And the library's trash. Sorry, it's trash. So I wouldn't want to subscribe long term to that. Honestly, I'd rather just buy the handful of games that are good on there, like God of War and stuff like that, which are only on there temporarily, I believe.
Yeah, that is interesting, which we'll talk about in a minute. Yeah, go ahead.
I'd much rather just buy them outright than subscribe right now because the library is really bad. Like, they've got like a few classics on there, but like not very many good ones. It's awful, man. Like, I was actually surprised how bad it was. So they're behind on the quality of the content. As such, I don't think Microsoft needs to feel pressured about what's actually on there because the library is just not that great. But I will say it differentiates because it also gives you PlayStation Now, which, as it turns out, is actually really good now. I haven't used PlayStation Now for about a year. I tried PlayStation Now last year with a trial when I was just, bored and looking for something to write about. I tried playing Fear, which is a personal favorite shooter of mine. It's like a horror shooter if you haven't played it before. And it's from the PS3 era. And it's favorite one of my favorite games. It was damn unplayable on PlayStation Now. It was damn unplayable. Like, you could barely like land your shots. It was so laggy, artifacting down to like 28, dial-up levels of ugliness and resolution. I was actually shocked how bad it was. Like, how can this product not have a beta tag or something like that? And then I tried xCloud at E3, and I was blown away by how much better it was. But then I tried PlayStation Now, Rand, with God of War, and it was pretty comparable to xCloud, honestly. Like, no word of a lie. You could still feel the lag, slightly, but you could with xCloud too. Like, you could still feel that it wasn't running native, but it wasn't so bad that it was frustrating or anything like that. I was playing God of War, and it felt great. It looked great, like, 1080p, fine, but there were occasional stutters where the artifacting and pixelization came in, but I think that was more to do with me streaming it from Wi-Fi than anything else. And the Wi-Fi where I have my laptop, the Wi-Fi is so congested. I have my Xbox connected with Wi-Fi, my Switch, my laptop. I've got my phone next to my PC. I've got like my TV's got Wi-Fi. The lights behind my TV have Wi-Fi. So it's pretty congested, like the amount of signals here. Theoretically, it shouldn't be very good experience, and it's definitely suboptimal. Like optimal experience would be using Ethernet cable, right? So I was so impressed with it. I was really, really impressed with it. Like it actually felt like a service I could subscribe to now. If I didn't have a PlayStation 4 for the native experience, I probably would subscribe to PlayStation Now just for those exclusives. But again, we come back to the quality of content, and God of War and all those other exclusives, they're not in there permanently, are they? It's like a temporary thing, right?
Yeah, so they're in there for 3 months. So I guess the difference between Game Pass and PlayStation Now, Microsoft's games in their day one, games in there for ever, I guess, right? Forever.
Yes.
Like Microsoft has said that they want to have those games in there forever.
Well,
And
they haven't officially claimed that's the policy purely on the basis of certain licensing things, like with Forza and stuff. So I
right.
think, like, for the most part, if they've done all their own music and stuff like that, then it will be in there forever.
But at least we haven't had a situation where Microsoft has removed one of their own games.
Yes.
And PlayStation Now, they are adding. So they're adding God of War. They're adding Uncharted 4. They added Infamous Second Son and Grand Theft Auto 5, which they talked about in an article. And I think Jim Ryan said that like they got a pretty good deal. And as far as he knows, Grand Theft Auto is like not any other subscription or streaming service. It's like exclusive to PlayStation Now. However, they call these limited time marquee titles that they'll be adding every month. So it seems like next month they'll have more, and I wonder if they'll dig in more into their, like, maybe Spider-Man next month, or maybe Spider-Man at some other point in time, and
Well, that's
Death
why.
Stranding, sometime after launch. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why I don't think Game Pass has to reduce its price, because it's committed to higher quality content. Like if I mean, sure, I get God of War for 3 months or whatever, or and stuff like that, but there's no guarantee that their future games will be in there day and day and stuff like that. And that's like, it sort of speaks to Sony being cognizant of the fact that they still want to sell consoles, whereas Microsoft's like all in, gung ho, like, and people often say stuff like, well, with xCloud, and we presume that xCloud will be tied to Game Pass. That's the assumption right now. If xCloud works and it's good, do we even need an Xbox anymore to play those exclusives? Not really.
Well, I mean,
Sony doesn't want to be in that situation.
I mean, you haven't needed an Xbox to play the exclusives since 2016. They're all been on PC.
No, but you need a good PC, and a lot of people can't afford that.
Sure.
But like,
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I could play. You'll be able to play. I mean, they literally showed it off at the Surface event. They showed Forza running off xCloud on the Surface phone. The Surface. I don't care, man. I'm gonna call it the Surface phone. They showed up Forza running on the Surface phone via xCloud, with like the bottom screen turned into a keyboard, which is something that I always said was gonna happen. And you won't even need an Xbox if it works as well as they advertise. You won't even need an Xbox. So that's why the price is higher, is because Microsoft thinks Microsoft's all in on that future, whereas Sony's still kind of like, we still want to sell the console, So Sony doesn't want to commit to that so much, and I think that's fine to have it differentiated. I would rather have, like, some people ask me, are you going to play God of War fully on PlayStation Now? I was like, well, it's a good experience, but I still want to have like the PS4 Pro graphics for the first time I play it, because it seems amazing. Like I played like about 40 minutes of God of War, and it already seems just like so incredible. Like, honestly, above any action game Microsoft's done this gen by a mile.
So how do you feel about the limited thing? I think for Smony, I think
Smony.
I know Smony. I was in the middle of like thinking something else.
I like that.
I think
Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why Shawn Layden left. He didn't like
Smony.
the name change to Smony.
Yeah. I think it works for now. Like the limited time stuff. I think it gives like people who haven't tried out the service a reason to check it out. In like, oh, I need to check this out now. I only have 3 months. And obviously, the hope is just like Game Pass. You subscribe for God of War or Uncharted, and then in the process, you look around and see what other games you got. You download some other stuff, and before you know it, your trial's expired and you're paying for it monthly, right? Now, my thing is like, if they're going down this route of limited time availability for their titles, clearly, Grand Theft Auto 5 is part of that, right? It's 3 months. Now, one of the big things about Game Pass, in my opinion, like the thing that more separates us from PlayStation Now is that Game Pass will have games launch into the service day and date, and they have newer games added to the service more often. You have stuff like Just Cause added 3 months later, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider added 5 months later, or Metro Exodus, Devil May Cry 5, right? Stuff like that. I think that's what really separates PlayStation Now from Game Pass. But if Sony is now getting to this point of like limited availability, they could potentially kind of sneak in and take some of that stuff away from Xbox, because they might go to a developer and be like, for example, let's just say Doom Eternal, right? Even though Microsoft has a good relationship with Bethesda, and I would expect Doom Eternal to be on Game Pass at some point, but just for the sake of the argument, I could see Sony being like, look, we're spending more money on PlayStation Now. You know, we want more users. We're willing to spend money and throw it at you to get your game on the service. But your game's only going to be on the service for 3 months. It'll be in this kind of thing where it's limited marquee titles. So, and Bethesda might look at that a little bit better. It's like, okay, that's much more interesting to us than, say, Xbox Game Pass, which it seems like there's a 1 year requirement. Like, you're in Game Pass, you're at least in Game Pass for a single year. You know what I mean? Like, that, at least that's what it seems like. So I wonder if more companies, more developers will look at Sony's and be like, okay, if we're getting the same money or even better, maybe the limited way would work better for some of them. Maybe some of the bigger games. You know what I'm trying to get at here? And like in that
I think
sense,
like yeah, it's not just for developers, but like the time limited stuff might make it just more interesting in general, and like force people to try and play it and use it and stuff like that. At least while they decide whether it's cost effective or it's not cannibalizing their console business, which is more important to Sony than it is to Microsoft. Like Microsoft have been on record as saying that they're the console business is important to them from a philosophical point of view, but in terms of the business, it's like it's not how you make money. You gotta monetize your user base, not just sell consoles. Like selling consoles is like half the battle, right? So like monetizing the users, you can do that on any platform, and that's the route that Microsoft's going down. They want to get you on your phone, they want to get you on your laptop, they want to get you on your Surface Pro X, which couldn't run games, at maximum resolution or whatever without streaming. So they just want to get you where you are. They don't want to force you into their platforms and stuff like that. Whereas Sony, like the console is more important for Sony because they don't have, such a big presence on those other platforms. Like they couldn't, like for example, Microsoft can, with every new installation of Windows 10, xCloud will be there. It will be there on the system for every laptop on Earth, offering people a chance to play. Like it doesn't matter if the laptop isn't powerful enough to run games. The xCloud will be like, oh well, your laptop sucks too much to play Fortnite, but hey, you can stream it from xCloud or whatever. Sony doesn't have that opportunity without giving Microsoft some money or giving Google some money or Samsung some money to like get those apps on the system from day and day. So the console is way more important to Sony in that context. They do sell TVs, but not everyone owns a Sony TV. So they are coming at it from different directions, and I think that's fine. And I don't know I don't know ultimately which method will pan out. I think Sony's smarter to play it safe rather than go all in. Like I dread to think what Xbox sales look like right now. Like
they
the
are
consoles.
really bad. I guarantee you the sales of Xbox hardware right now are abysmal. Like,
Yeah.
and it makes
Then
sense. I
they're not
mean,
even pushing. They're not even pushing the console anymore.
well, it's like one of those things where it's like I saw that they have the marketing rights for the new Star Wars game. And anytime Sony had the marketing rights for Star Wars, they did a custom console because Star Wars fans will buy that stuff. They finally have like the rights to a Star Wars game, and they're just the bundles are just the regular old plain Xboxes. It's like to me that's
They've got a controller though.
they got a controller, but Xbox has a million controllers. I'm like the point is like the sales for the hardware are so abysmal that they can't even have a custom Star Wars console because the stores like Best Buy and GameStops, they probably don't want to buy any more Xbox hardware. They probably want to get rid of the hardware that they have. But I mean, this was always going to happen. This generation, we still got one more year to go. Microsoft, they released the mid-gen console with the X, which helped. But I mean, Xbox was always. This always happens to the system that is in last place. And look at the prices. The system is still completely overpriced. I think the S is still MSRP is $300, and same thing with the X. It's still like MSRP $500. Like the Xbox One S should be selling for $170. That's it. Like that should be the price. It should be $170, $180. No more, no less. It's way too expensive for this late in the generation. So they're just riding it out. That's one of the reasons why they changed their investor information. Like they are not talking about Xbox hardware info anymore because revenue, right? Because I mean, last time they did it was like down 50%. I would imagine for this quarter it's probably going to be down another 50%. It's not really a good look. But what are you going to do, right? I will say about the God of War and the exclusives going into PlayStation Now, being able to be played streaming to PC. I do think, like you, Sony won't offer that stuff day and date yet. I'm of the opinion they eventually will, down the road.
I think they will eventually.
Halfway through next gen. I honestly do. I think that's where it's headed, and it's not going to happen anytime soon. I think what they're going to...
It'll be one of their E3 announcements, won't it?
No, I don't even... Maybe, but I don't even think it'll happen, like... I'm looking at... Listen, next gen starts 2020. I'm looking at 2024, 2023. Like, after a lot of the hardcore have gotten into the ecosystem and bought the console, and they know they have those guys, and they have them locked in, and they want to go after a different audience... I think that's when essentially they'll do that. But it won't be for some time. This isn't like Microsoft, where Microsoft, I think, waited. They released Game Pass in 2017, then the exclusives came in 2018. I think at some point down the road, Sony, towards the back half of the generation, will start doing that. That's just my opinion, though. I could be completely wrong. But you can already see that Sony's trying to, like, they're dipping their toes in there and be like, all right, we're offering God of War and Uncharted in here. They're offering more games every month, assuming, they're going to use their own exclusives and other third parties to get more subscribers on board. But that just kind of brings this whole thing about all these subscription services, Jazz. Is there going to be a bubble? Is it going to pop at some point? Because I did see you talking to somebody about that. Like, is there just too many at this point in time, and with every month it's like more are coming? Is there going to be a bubble that's going to pop and some will live and some will die?
I keep hearing people say this, but like, what's $10 a month? It's nothing, but you add 10 of them together, then yeah, it's $100, which is a bit more like, ooh, that's a lot of money. But like, I don't know. It's about whether you value those services. Like I subscribe. Did we talk about this last week? Like I subscribe to Spotify, YouTube Premium. I subscribe to Netflix, UHD. Subscribe to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and I've got a Nintendo Switch subscription as well, which I barely use. But like it's such a minuscule amount of money. I don't even really care just to let those subscriptions roll. And research shows that most people don't even care. They don't even see that as a big expense. Like what's the Nintendo Switch Online? It costs like $8 a month or something like that.
No, it's like $20 a year. Yeah,
Well,
so
there you go. Like $20 a year. Like that's what? That's like four. That's four whiskey and cokes. You know, that's nothing. It's bloody nothing.
so you
I
so
always I always measure subscription fees in the amount of whiskey shots you'd get for them otherwise.
yeah, it's just it seems like everything is moving into a subscription. It's just there's a lot of stuff
I,
there, you know.
it's like in your head, it's kind of like, well, if I'm paying for this subscription, then I don't have to buy all these games outright. So I'm saving money, even though that might not necessarily be the case, because you might not have bought those games anyway. Um, I'm someone who probably would have bought all those Xbox exclusives. Like I probably would have bought State of
I
Decay.
would have too.
Yeah, I would have bought Sea of Thieves. Like even though like I ended up not liking Sea of Thieves, I quite like State of Decay, and I would have bought Gears 5. I probably wouldn't have bought Crackdown 3 because honestly, it just didn't look that great. But I'm the kind of person who buys so many games that something like Xbox Game Pass probably does save me money every year. But there'll be millions of people out there who like probably wouldn't have spent that much money on games anyway. But like they're trying games out for the first time that they wouldn't have done otherwise. People who are just a bit more thrifty with their money. Maybe they're the kind of people who will, turn subscriptions off and on and stuff like that. But like you say, like you said last week, the research shows that people just leave subscriptions rolling, and that's why Xbox Live has so many subscribers. It's not because of Xbox One being so great. It's because people have left their subscriptions rolling since the Xbox 360 era. But people are still playing Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto on the 360.
Yeah, PlayStation Network has a lot of subscribers too. I think they last reported 35 million paying whatever
Yeah.
amount per month, and I think most people just they subscribe and they forget, right? They subscribe and they just let it roll. Now you did
And
mention
they just don't care.
you
They
did
just don't
mention
care to turn it off.
I think a lot of these subscriptions will like especially Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, they're going to add value because they just announced that Spotify Premium, if you're a new member to sign up to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, you also get 6 months of Spotify Premium.
Yeah, and I've heard there are other features coming to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which will add even more value. They might get announced at XO. I don't know when they're gonna get announced, but I have heard things about really cool features that are coming to people who subscribe on Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. So that's the thing about subscription services. They can constantly add value. And that's why I think like rather than bring the price down, I think what Microsoft's more likely to do is just pile on value to that thing. And that's what Microsoft does. That's how Microsoft has become a $1 trillion business. It's because they know and they have more data than anyone over how people will subscribe to things. Like for example, I completely forgot when I was listing off all the things I subscribe to personally that I subscribe to Office 365. I very barely ever use Office. I very barely use Word. I never use Excel or Access or PowerPoint. I never use them. I use Word maybe twice a month or something like that when our content management system isn't working. I use Office 365 because it gives you a terabyte of OneDrive data. And I realized today that they've got me in for life for that because now I've got so much data in OneDrive that I don't want to lose. I literally cannot live without it. I will probably be subscribing to OneDrive forever because I've just ended up, it's just become part of my lifestyle, And it's the same with Xbox Live. I've been subscribed to Xbox Live since forever because it's just part of my lifestyle. And that's, I guess, what Microsoft's hoping to achieve with Xbox Game Pass and Xbox xCloud is that it'll just become part of your lifestyle, and you won't even think about the subscription. You just consider it part of your gaming, expenses. And if it's worth it and it's a good value, then I don't see the problem with it.
Yeah, and shout out to Albert Padro Trias in Super Chat. He's got a question for us, Jez. He wants to know, on the topic of exclusives, do you guys think Scalebound could come back next gen? I mean, Microsoft still owns the IP and must have plans for it, right?
No.
Scalebound's dead. People want Scalebound to come back. I don't have any inside information about anything, but Scalebound's never coming back, in my opinion. I think no, it's never coming back. People hold on to that game though a lot, right?
I would love to be wrong about that, but that's never coming back. There's like serious. I think there's probably like bad blood there between Platinum and Microsoft over it. I think it's like a chapter Microsoft would rather forget than think about again. That I don't think that's ever coming back. I think like people really need to move on from that because I just can't see it. But I'd love to be wrong though, Rand. I would love to be wrong, but I just don't think I am.
So the other thing that PlayStation announced that also is going to affect Xbox is crossplay coming out of beta.
Yeah, crossplay.
Any developer that wants to use it can use it. They just put in crossplay in PUBG, which I had tested out in the private test server, public test server. I killed some PlayStation fans, and it's cool because it has like the Xbox logo in the kill feed, and then for a PlayStation player, it has like a controller. So for whatever reason, I don't think Microsoft wants the PlayStation icon on Xbox, and I think it's probably the same way on PlayStation. You know, you have a PlayStation logo and then like a controller to represent the Xbox logo, right? So that's happening. You know, Rocket League has it, Fortnite has it, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, it has it. It's out of beta. So is this going to, what do we think here, Jazz? Is this going to be pretty much a thing where it's going to start creeping into more and more games? Destiny 2, like the Ubisoft games, like the bigger games, are they going to start using it? Maybe like the smaller indie titles? Like, what do you think is the future of crossplay?
I think like it partially depends on the developmental complexities. Like I'm not a developer, so I don't know. Some devs say it's easy as at the flick of a switch, while other devs say it's hard. It probably depends on what their network infrastructure is and what their their budgets are like to include this sort of feature. Because for some it won't be as simple as flicking a switch. But I do think like it's more beneficial to Xbox than it is to Sony, because it reduces that barrier where I need a PlayStation because my friend has a PlayStation. Like for example, so some of my siblings, like their Destiny 2 saves are on PlayStation, so they want to play Destiny 2 on PlayStation. Whereas other of my siblings have it on Xbox. So like we couldn't all play together until they introduced that save switching system thing, which a lot of us just haven't bothered using yet either. But that is the whole reason why Sony dominated so hard, and why the console that has the console that has the head start always gets that sort of halo effect of my friend has the console, so I need to get it as well. And there's a whole South Park episode about it where they're fighting over which console to buy first, because for some people they can't buy both day and day. A lot of people will, a lot of people won't. So that helps Xbox a lot more than it helps Sony. And obviously it helps developers too, because it means they don't have to, have two separate player pools to cater for. And that's probably another reason why Sony's like going after services like PlayStation Now and thinking a little bit more about multiplayer, because the walls come down, man. I think like if they've just opened the floodgates now, there's literally like there'll be theoretically nothing to stop me from me or anyone playing with their friends who are playing on a different console. And that's great for consumers, but it does make things a little bit different next gen, doesn't it?
A little bit, yeah. I want to see more cross progression. I know in like Fortnite you could invite friends that were on other platforms. I think that's not the case in PUBG. Like I can't invite a friend on PlayStation to play in my game. So there might be some limiting things there. So yeah, this is probably good for the smaller games that, like are online, that want to have a community of players, so it can just have one, user base. But it's definitely weird to see, because I thought this was something that would never happen. Like crossplay between PlayStation and Xbox seemed like a pipe dream. And then because yes, PlayStation was doing it first with PC. That's 100% true. Like PlayStation was kind of the first in the crossplay thing they're doing with PC. They did ask Microsoft last gen to want to do crossplay, and Microsoft was like, "Hell no, because we're number one. We're not doing crossplay." And then of course, roles reversed this gen. Sony was still doing crossplay with PC, but they didn't want to do it with Xbox. And Xbox kind of opened up, and they were doing crossplay more and more often. And then suddenly it was like now we have it in a lot of stuff. I don't know if you have Epic to thank for that in Fortnite, like the Fortnite effect. I wonder if that had a lot to do with it. But it's definitely probably going to be a feature for a lot of games. Maybe 5-6 years from now, it's something that you just expect to happen. Like it'll be the norm rather than like the exception. You know. But it's definitely
It's funny though, Rand. After all this sort of crossplay, shenanigans, there is one pioneering crossplay game that still isn't crossplay on PlayStation, and that's Minecraft.
yeah, and that's never going to happen. I would imagine.
It's kind of ironic, really, because the whole reason that's not going to happen is because for crossplay to function on Minecraft, Microsoft requires Microsoft account, and Sony doesn't want to allow that. So it's funny that Minecraft's like crossplay across everything, except for PlayStation, and it looks like that's like the final wall, I guess. Is like Sony allowing other sort of login systems to appear on their service.
Well, if Sony allows a Microsoft account login for Minecraft, then it's only a matter of time before other Microsoft games end up on PlayStation at that point. Like that, like you said,
Maybe.
that's the final barrier. If they're willing to let people log into Xbox Live from PlayStation Network, anything is possible at that point.
I agree.
So,
It'd be cool to get Ori. I mean, Ori's on Switch now. There's literally no reason to not bring it to PlayStation.
Sure. I mean, I would like more people to play Ori because it's such a fantastic game. But I'm sure Microsoft views Sony as competition, and they view Switch as not. I mean, they've kind of said so as much. So I think they're more than likely and happy to put stuff on Switch because they feel like it doesn't affect their platform, so to speak. Whereas like having the game on PlayStation is more of a competitor, and that would not be good for them. I would imagine that's more of a thing there. I think Xbox looks at Switch as just like a companion device.
It's so arbitrary. I think they should put it on PlayStation, but.
Anyways, shout out to Gunstar for the super chat. He says, "Do you think Microsoft will have custom chips in Scarlett like the SQ1 and the Surface X? Love y'all."
Yes, it
So
will.
Just
Because
says yes.
the Xbox One X already has a custom chip, which is something that often gets overlooked. But Microsoft likes to, tweak the chips and stuff like that. For those that don't know, there's a new Surface Pro X, which has a custom ARM. I believe it's an it's an 8XC or 8CX chip. I can never remember which way around those numbers are. But it's basically like customized, and Microsoft put their branding on it. And they also did like a custom Surface Edition Ryzen for the Surface laptop too. 3, sorry. So I think like it's almost certain that Scarlett will have some kind of custom Microsoft chips. They've been getting more and more into chips recently. Microsoft have. I don't know if you've noticed this.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. But JD Gamer has a question for us. The super chat, Jazz. He says, "Should Microsoft buy Spotify? Also, what about cross progression? Is that dead? Can Crimson Dragon ever come back? I doubt Crimson Dragon will ever come back. I think more games will do cross progression in the future. And should Microsoft buy Spotify?"
Now, I think like didn't the dev of Crimson Dragon, aren't they working on a new Panzer Dragoon?
Is there a Panzer Dragoon remaster? I thought coming to the Switch. I could be wrong. I don't know. I thought I saw it during one of the Nintendo Directs or something.
I think Crimson Dragon could come back. Actually, I don't know. I don't think it's sold super well, but I don't know. Who knows?
I put that I think the chances are better of that coming back than Scalebound, sure, but I don't. I mean, they did Crimson Dragon as a launch title, and it's 9 years later, and I don't really see a lot of people clamoring for it. So, I think Microsoft has their priorities of what people want to come back. Like Killer Instinct. I think a lot of people want a Killer Instinct 2. There's a lot of people that wants like a new Conquer or a new Banjo. They're bringing back Battletoads for whatever reason. I mean, a dumb one, but they are. So I don't see Crimson Dragon coming back, but the Microsoft buying Spotify
Yeah.
thing.
First of all, the CEO of Spotify said that he'd never sell the company. Um, of course, a lot of CEOs have said that and then changed their mind. So who knows? I think like there will come a point where Spotify runs out of like cash flow and just be like, you know what, we need to sell now, because I don't know if you know this, Rand, but Spotify has never made a dime.
Never made
Never
any money.
made.
How's that?
They've just never made a dime because it costs so much to host, stream all that music, and they don't make enough money back from it. Like,
Hmm.
basically, Spotify is running on fumes. Like, it's running on like venture capital money and stuff like that.
But it's changed the music industry. It's
It has
literally
completely
changed
changed.
it.
Yeah, basically because it's a charity. It's like, it's it's between like the lawsuits and having to pay royalties and the cost of streaming things, and their hope is, like a lot of these services, is that eventually they'll get so big that they'll slip into the positive cash flow instead of negative. But I think like eventually Spotify will probably sell to someone, but then it becomes like, does Microsoft really want to take on all that burden of a company that doesn't really make that much money, when like they already got out of the music business themselves with Groove Music and stuff like that? I just don't know if that's like, it's not really part of Microsoft's DNA anymore to try and do those sorts of entertainment services. I would honestly love it if they did, because I think Microsoft could bring more to Spotify than any other company out there. And also, I think Apple Music needs a serious competitor and stuff like that. But at the same time, I don't think Microsoft cares that much about music. Otherwise, they would have kept Groove Music going. But who knows? Stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
But the key point there is that the guy said he'd never sell. So at least for the time being, I don't think that's gonna happen.
I don't see it happening. Like you said, Microsoft got out of music business. If they're not really making any money, I doubt Microsoft, them taking it in and somehow making money out of something that doesn't make money. It might be a tough sell. Even though it has changed the music industry, it's kind of funny because I didn't know that about Spotify because I don't use it, so I haven't really looked anything about. So I'm kind of shocked to learn that Spotify doesn't make any money. That's kind of like Netflix.
Well,
like Netflix
actually,
isn't so much debt, but it does actually make a lot of money. It's just not enough money to cover all the debt that they need to
I think
produce
that's
shows and stuff.
I think that's more of it. Like, actually, Spotify is making money now. Just to double check that I'm not just spouting bullshit, but like it has started making money recently. But I think like the comments about it not making any money comes from how much debt it has to pay off still, and how many creditors they still have to pay off as a result of all that, investment early on and stuff like that. So it does seem like it's making money now. Net income for 2018 was 100 million, which ain't that big considering their revenue is 6 billion. So it's
Damn.
it's way for thin.
Revenue of $6 billion and they only made how much?
88 million.
Jesus, man, their expenses are through the roof. Holy cow.
So they're on a so I think when people say they don't make any money, what they're really doing is commenting on the sort of wafer thin margins that they've got right
Can you
now.
imagine making bringing in $6 billion, but only really like pocketing 80 million of that? I mean, granted, you're still be a millionaire, but still, like,
It's
holy
still
cow.
it's still 80 million. It's still 80 million, but it's like they've still got like a lot of, they've still got a lot to get through before it's sort of more of a healthy business. But that's the thing though. It's like exactly what the guy's saying, like he didn't want to sell the business. It's because like the CEO is like this sort of like music fanboy optimist who wants to revolutionize music, and he's not doing it for the money. Well, he is doing it for the money, but he's sort of like he's got this sort of idealist mission and stuff like that. So I don't think it'd sell in the short term, and like it's also complicated because Spotify is a publicly traded company, which Microsoft would have to buy off all the shares. And also, your boys Tencent are involved in Spotify as well, which I didn't even know.
I think Di also said in chat that Sony has shares in Spotify as well. So
Yeah, I think Microsoft too has shares in Spotify. Like,
Yeah. So a
um,
lot of stuff going on there. Gears 5, Jazz, microtransactions. This was a topic because I see Rod talking about it on Twitter. A lot of people complaining about the microtransactions within the game. So,
mm,
and it's funny because he was like, we're learning as we go. Because I think they raised the price of iron in certain countries.
mm,
Um, there seems to be, and I know you mentioned to me, you DM me the other day, like, man, people hate Gears 5, and I'm like, huh? And like you said, like people really hate the microtransactions because now like everybody who's probably played the campaign has probably played through it, um, and now it's kind of just like the multiplayer stuff. And even when I was playing the game, which I haven't played it since the week it came out because I'm on the other games, but I looked at the microtransaction store and I was just like, whew, man, like like you have like the tour of duty, which is the skill based challenges, and the rewards there aren't really that appealing. And it's like
mm.
you have the supply drops, which basically just gives you stuff, and it's like okay, that's like free, but like man, the store where like the premium content, like one, there's not really that a lot. Two, a lot of it's just stupid stuff like blood sprays and other things like that. It's like I don't know. It makes me wonder like how much forethought they really gave into all this stuff when they were bragging beforehand about how they were ahead of the industry when it came to the whole microtransaction stuff and how they patted
Mm.
themselves on the back like we got rid of loot boxes. Like that should be something to be like I hate that. I hate that whole thing of like we got rid of loot boxes. Like congratulations. You know what I mean? Like that's a selling point. I mean, what do you think about all that? Like Thuperman says, dude, an execution animation for one gun were $7 each.
It's
Like, doesn't that
ridiculous.
seem just to be a little bit too expensive? Like $7 for an execution? I don't know. It seems like the prices are out of control. But then again, it's like people will say it's cosmetic, doesn't change the game, no pay to win elements, um, like only buy it if you want. And I'm like, sure, and for the most part, I'm cool with cosmetic based stuff because I don't care what my character looks like. But I don't know, like I look at it, I'm like, wow, $7 for a flag. It's like it just seems a tad bit greedy, doesn't? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think part of the problem is that part of the problem is that there's not much else to get in the game. So it's kind of like if this is like the whole progression mechanic is stuff that you buy and this tour of duty thing with the iron, which apparently you don't get very much of. And honestly, I haven't really experienced any of this for myself yet. So I'm really gonna have to dive in to Gears this week and have a proper look at it because some people say it doesn't matter, some people about it, and it's really hard to get a gauge on, you know, your own opinion, I guess, without actually experiencing it for yourself. So I'll go and do that, and then maybe talk about it again next week about how I feel. But at the same time, it's kind of like, how do you put a price on something like an execution? The only real way that you can do it is like based on how many people actually buy it. And clearly, people are buying it at that price. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to sell it at that price, and the price will come down. And that's how you fund ongoing content. And this whole sort of pivot away from loot boxes was driven by a backlash to Battlefront. And the pivot away from season passes was driven by backlash against map packs, which divided up the community. So like players were like, we don't like map packs because some map packs are dead. And God, you saw this in Battlefront 1. You had like these separate map packs, and some of them were just dead. Like you couldn't get a game for some of the later map packs for Battlefront 1. And it's a shame because those maps were really cool, but a lot of people just don't buy them, or they're just happy to play with the base game maps. And like I'm someone who used to buy Battlefield Premium happily because I thought that drove a lot of great content. But at the same time, it did split up the player base considerably, and it sort of makes it difficult to keep everyone playing together. And it's kind of like, oh, my friend's got this map pack and I don't, and stuff like that. I do think like the map packs were a more stable way to sort of monetize that stuff without like you got clear value when you bought season pass. I thought personally, a lot of people didn't like it, but I thought you got clear value from Battlefield Premium. But now you've got like Battlefield 5, which has no season pass. Yay, the community is all together. But now like the maps are late because EA aren't putting as much cash behind the game because there's less cash flow, and there's less upfront investment because there's no season pass to buy, and like you just had a map launch for Battlefield 5, which was like 4 months later than advertised or something like that. And like it's become a meme in the Battlefield community that everything's late for that game now, as like EA pivoted developers away from Battlefield 5 to fix Battlefront, which they also screwed up with the microtransactions. So, on the one hand, I do yearn for an age where games were just games and you got what you paid for and stuff like that. But on the other hand, I've also gotten a lot of value out of DLC and season passes and stuff like that. And sometimes I just want more content personally. I know that's not like the cool thing to say. It really isn't the cool thing to say around that you like DLC. But I also want those devs to get paid. You know, at the end of the day, like the DLC for Mass Effect 2 is some of the best experiences the game ended up offering.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, and that's like, and people will say, well, that should have been in the game, and then it's like, well, okay, but then the game would have come out a year later because it's not like they cut that out of the base game to sell. And although there were sort of instances of that where they found Street Fighter 4 characters were on the disc, but then they were arbitrarily locked behind a paywall. There are situations where that has happened, but there are plenty of situations where that hasn't happened. Like The Witcher 3, the DLC for The Witcher 3, sublime. You know, absolutely sublime. Heart of Stone, incredible. And like Lair of the Shadowbrook from Mass Effect 2, incredible. And then like you got Monster Hunter World Iceborne, which is like probably the best expansion I've ever played. Like, I want the devs to get paid for that quality content. But it's kind of like, it's harder to see how a $7 execution translates into future content. Like a season pass, it's more clear, I think. So I think what, and this will probably be unpopular as well, but I think like what Gears could probably do is they could literally sell a season pass, and I think Rainbow Six Siege does. Doesn't Rainbow Six Siege have like a battle pass where you can basically pay for a season pass and get all that content?
Everybody has a battle pass. Like Apex Legends has a battle pass. Fortnite has a battle pass. Destiny 2 has a battle pass. Every game has a battle pass. Technically, Gears does have a battle pass. It's called the Tour of Duty. That was their battle pass, except it was free.
Well, why don't they make that paid and then give you all the cosmetics that you would otherwise have to pay for separately? That way they get to exploit the whales. And some people like whales is like for those who don't know, whales is like an industry term basically referring to people with more money than sense. Like there are literally people who spend $10,000 on a microtransaction. And that on microtransactions, and those are the people that Microsoft and others are ultimately going after with these kind of systems. They can get the people who just enjoy spending money, and there are literally people who do enjoy spending money. They can go after those people, and then also offer value with the season pass for people who, you know, don't want to have to pay $7 for an execution or something like that.
How much of this has to do with the game being in Game Pass and needing at least some way to get back money from people who, you know, chose to subscribe to Game Pass instead of buying the game outright?
And that's definitely part of it, but it's really hard to know without any sort of concrete numbers. Like the problem with Game Pass discussions is we don't even have ballpark figures on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, nobody really shares them. But Superman says he feels if they would make so much more, you know, in transactions if costs were lower, that he says he'd probably buy a bunch of $1 skins, but he's not going to spend any for $10 or $20.
Yeah, the problem is like when it's $7, it kind of like adds a level of prestige and almost like jealousy to it. If you're someone who like just thinks like everyone can afford $7. Everyone who's playing Gears of War can afford $7. It's not like no one can afford it, but it's more like if you've just grown up in an environment where you're taught to save money. Like I'm from a pretty poor background, so I wouldn't really want to spend $7 on a spray, or I'd feel like a sucker for doing so. Like I'd feel like I can afford $7 for a spray, but I'd feel like an idiot for doing it. Because I just been raised that way, and I think that's part of the annoyance people have. It's not just like how much it costs; it's like the culture surrounding money, depending on how you've been raised as well. So I do think like they probably would make way more money if it was just cheaper. Like one really egregious thing I've seen recently is I'm actually going to write about this next week. I think I'm just going to write about the way Microsoft's pivoted pretty hard on this, because Minecraft has a character creator coming up, Rand. I don't know if you've seen this.
Okay.
So Minecraft has a character creator coming up, and there's like 100 free items in there, but there's a load of premium items in there that you have to pay money for. Now, they are super cheap, technically, but you can only buy them in packs of... Basically, they cost like these mine coins, which is like Xbox Live points back in the day. Remember those?
Yes, I remember those. Go ahead.
So you can only buy like... I think you have to buy like $1 of Minecon points, Minecraft points at a time. And then you get 400 points or something, which you can then spend on content. So like, say for example, I wanted to buy a pair of glasses for my Minecraft character. All I wanted was the glasses. All I wanted were these Minecraft glasses for my character. They're about maybe 15 pixels. 15 black pixels of Minecraft graphics glasses. If I want to buy those, that costs $1. I could literally draw those in MS Paint. And sure, I'll get like a bunch of other cosmetics with it. But it just kind of feels like... You just feel like a sucker, you know? Like, do I really want to pay $1 for 10 pixels that are arranged in the shape of some glasses? Like, it's hard to it's a culture thing, I think. And I think a lot of kids growing up today, they won't care about this stuff. Kids will be like, "Oh hell yeah," because I've grown up in a world where buying some pixelated glasses for $1 is completely normal. But for me, I feel kind of like I'm getting ripped off here somehow, you know?
Well, yeah, even like Call of Duty had a lot of backlash for trying to sell a little red dot sight for like $1 or whatever, right?
Yeah, like...
So it's yeah, I don't know. Like for me, I think people are like, we want more content for Gears, and there's this thing where some people and some developers consider cosmetics as content, and even we've gotten to the point where they're like, you know, something like Rage 2, which offers 2 new difficulties and an Iron Man mode as content. I don't think that's content. And maybe I'm like old school, but I think of content as new maps. So if you drop 5 new maps, that's new content. Like Apex Legends dropped a brand new map finally. That's new content. Like new cosmetics for your character that you can buy, to me, isn't content. It's just more cosmetics. So I think that people look at Gears and they're like, you know, I want more content, whether it's more modes or more maps. And they keep on saying, well, they drip feeding like cosmetics, and it just seems like people are like, is this it? And, you know, they're already on record saying like, you know, new content comes every 3 months. 3 months is a long time, especially if you're someone who's playing Gears day in and day out every single night. Like you're looking at it like, okay, game came out September, I can expect new content in what, December? And it's like the beginning of October. So it's like, man, that's a long time to wait. And in the meantime, all you're getting is like the store updating once a week, executions that are overpriced, all that stuff. So a lot of people may look at it and be like, I'm, you know, like this isn't enough, you know?
That's honestly, like, I'm sorry to harp on about Monster Hunter, but this is why Monster Hunter is so crazy to me, because it seems to be like doing what all of the publishers should do but aren't doing. Like next week, and how long are we out from launch? Like a month? Okay, so we're
from
Iceborne.
Yeah, about a month.
About a month, like 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something. Like we're about a month away from launch, and next week they're releasing a whole new area for the endgame zone, and they're also adding a monster and maybe they've teased secret monsters too, and that's free content. And there aren't any microtransactions in the game either. So it's kind of like, well, there are, but they're like not in the game. They're in the Microsoft store that you have to God, if you didn't know they were there, you'd never even see them. I like. It's kind of like, what are they getting out of it? But it's like, if I'm comparing the value between what Monster Hunter's doing with its DLC and stuff, and then looking at Gears War, and they're like, oh well, an execution is content, and like Monster Hunter's just given me basically a whole game's worth of content for $30, and they're adding more content to it in the form of new monsters, new mechanics, new weapons. Because like a new monster also means new weapons. It means new everything basically, new progression, new mechanics, and there's going to be more than one new monster as well. Some of which aren't even being advertised. Like they're secrets to be found in the game. Like why can't other devs do that? Like, and it makes you wonder, like, are they just being greedy? Are Gears and EA and Microsoft and all that stuff just being greedy, or are Capcom being just overly generous? Are Capcom
Well,
trying to win back
they're being
PlayStation now?
generous with Monster Hunter, but didn't Street Fighter have some ridiculous monetization stuff early in the
Yeah,
gen?
I mean,
So
yeah, I mean, I mentioned that like
yeah.
back in the day, Street Fighter 4 had on-disc DLC, which actually kickstarted this whole backlash. So maybe for Capcom, they're thinking like we need to win back some goodwill here before we start being greedy again. And maybe I'm just being really naive. But it's that whole value proposition. It's kind of like, well, Monster Hunter's doing all this. Why aren't you doing that? It's like, what have you done for me lately, kind of thing. You
Yeah.
know. So
It'll be
it's confusing.
it'll be interesting to see how they adapt and respond to the microtransactions and Gears, because I feel like that also will like kind of maybe change or impact how Halo Infinite does it, and maybe even some of the
Oh yeah.
other like first party games, like what the expectation is, what the output is, like how often should you be releasing content, what the price should be. So it does have some effects because obviously Halo Infinite's going to have microtransactions. You can already bet your bottom dollar on it. The question it's like, hopefully in a year from now, like with Gears as the test case, it's like okay, we figure out what's good, what do people like, all that sort of stuff. So moving on from that, Jez, it's your time to shine, buddy. Surface event. Andromeda phone. Go ahead. Give me the lowdown. Give me as someone who only like I'm not a Microsoft fan. Okay, let me say this. I don't like Microsoft. I like Xbox. So I don't care about anything else the company makes. So sell me on Surface, Jazz. Sell me on this new phone. Sell me on all this stuff, like because I don't care about Xbox. So should I care about this?
No, you probably shouldn't care
Okay,
about
so
this.
don't care about this. Okay, gotcha.
Like, but I'm not going to go into this too much because I can already hear people tuning. But the most interesting aspect of this new folding paradigm is the fact that they teased XCloud with it. For me personally, because like you say, like you're not a Microsoft fan. I am a Microsoft fan, but I still sort of skew towards Xbox at the end of the day, and the how other divisions can help the gaming part of it. And I know you don't like handheld gaming, Rand, but the Switch just so happens to be pretty damn popular. I don't know if you're aware of this console called the Switch, but it's pretty popular, man. And before that, the 3DS was pretty popular as well. Um, so for those who didn't watch it, the Surface Duo is a new Android phone that Microsoft's making. It's not a flexible display; it's a two-panel display clamshell based on Android, and it can be folded out like a Nintendo DS, like you have one portion, then the other portion up. And what they showed in the demo, which made me light up, was the fact that you can stream xCloud games to the top portion, and then the bottom portion of the screen is like a custom UI for the game. So like it showed like Forza, for example, had like a big button for the accelerator, a button for the brake, and like steering and stuff like that. And it didn't really like um it was just a custom layout for optimized for touch. And it just got me thinking like how much potential this has, because it's not only Microsoft that's making these sort of dual screen devices. We've got Samsung making them as well, and we've also got like LG just shipped one too, and this honestly just doesn't benefit Microsoft. Like there's no reason Sony couldn't do this with PlayStation Now as well.
My
It was
whole
like the,
my whole thing with the Surface Phone, Jez, is what exactly I said to you. Who cares? It's touchscreen. Like I know, like you were all excited, like oh my god, it's an XCloud, it's a Xbox mobile device. It's touchscreen. Who cares?
yeah, but that's the whole thing, Rand, is that they will add other peripherals to make it not touchscreen. Because they can add things that clip onto the screen, like mini controllers and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that could be done to alleviate that issue. And not only that, but it supports Bluetooth. So you can put the Surface Phone in tent mode or the Surface Neo, which has a much bigger screen. You can fold it out like a tent, put it on the table. You know, you're commuting on the train, you put it on the table, pair up an Xbox controller, and boom, you got a portable Xbox. And I've seen people use the Switch that way, where they put the Switch on the table on the train with the kickstand and then use a Pro controller because they don't like the little joysticks. Like, I hate the Switch Joy-Cons. I think they're garbage. But, like, the Pro controller is pretty good. So I use it that way. So there's no reason you couldn't do it that way as well. But, you know, beyond that, it's like the Surface Neo, which is the Windows-based folding tablet, that is that's running Windows. So like there's going to be like a whole bunch of other devices based on this stuff that come out of the woodwork over time. I just like portable gaming. I like my Xbox, and I want to be able to play my Xbox no matter where I am, because I often just ain't at my PC, man.
I get you. I know you're
not there.
excited. I know you're super happy. There's a Microsoft phone, you know, a Surface phone. I get it. Some of the stuff looks really good. Like that folding phone isn't for me.
I tell you, Rand, like
So
what I've been saying about XCloud is that it needs hero hardware. Like XCloud, like I know you don't care about handheld gaming for those, but for those who do want to take their Xbox gaming on the go, for those who do travel a lot, or for those who like they just don't want to be sitting in front of the TV all the time. Maybe they want to like play their Xbox in bed or whatever. Like for those who are interested in that aspect of it, I think like the cheapo, crappy plastic clips that you can buy from Amazon that they were using at E3, they ain't it, man. They ain't it. I don't want to have to clip something onto my controller. I don't want to have to clip it to my phone, take my phone out of the case, and then dock it in this stupid, janky plastic clip, which feels like it's going to fall apart. Like, I don't want to have to do that. Like, this needs hero hardware. It needs, like, a Switch-like device to go with it. And I think, like, this is the first indication that Microsoft sort of feels the same way. So, I don't know. I'm excited for it. I know a lot of other people are excited for it. But I'll have to wait and see. Because I don't think it's going to suddenly make Microsoft a huge phone manufacturer. It's just kind of a fun device, you know.
yeah, and it comes out next year, right?
Yeah, holiday 2020. So it comes out around the time Scarlett
comes out. Yeah.
It's
interesting timing, for sure.
I think there will be some kind of device that lets you dock the bottom portion of the phone into a sort of handheld controller. I would not be surprised if that was the case.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna buy it. You know,
of course
you know,
you're gonna get it. I know you will, and you'll post pictures of it, and you'll post pictures of you playing Monster Hunter Iceborne on it. Oh, I already know it's all coming this time next year. I get it. I'm ready for it. But I think with
you know what else you need to be ready for, Rand, by the way.
What do I need to be ready for?
I'm punishing you
for
clickbait. So you have to play. I'm still gonna make you play Pokemon in November.
Oh my god, really?
I'm not.
But
letting
Jez, there's so many games coming out in November. Death Stranding, Need for Speed Heat, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Doom Eternal. I mean, come on, there's so many games.
And if you don't play Pokemon, you're screwing over a charity.
We'll see, Jez. We'll talk about that as we get closer. But that's probably going to be the close of the show. Hit us up with some questions before we end. I'm just going to do some outro stuff. Thanks for
18 gyms.
What?
18 gyms on a Pokemon. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. 8 Pokemon. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, follow me or Jez on Twitter. The links are in the description. And, if you want to listen to this on Google Play or Spotify, Spotify, iTunes, you can do so. We have the links in the description.
We're not taking questions?
Yeah, we are. I said people send us the questions.
Sorry.
We appreciate it. wherever you listen, if you want to listen to live here, or if you want to listen to it later, we do provide that. So you don't have to waste your data, using YouTube on your phone or whatever. So we appreciate it. But first question we have from Face. He wants to know, what's up, Rand and Jez? Do you think Last of Us 2 will sell more than God of War and or Spider-Man? In the long run, or do you mean first month?
Sorry, what was the question? I
Last of Us 2 will sell more than God of War and or Spider-Man. So let's see. Launch month and or lifetime. I think I think it'll sell more than God of War, 100%. Lifetime. I think lifetime outsells God of War pretty easily. Spider-Man though, Spider-Man's what, the best-selling PlayStation exclusive this whole gen. It's pretty big.
It's the Marvel factor that'll carry Spider-Man.
I'm a little bit. I'm gonna. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Like, I know Last of Us is probably their most, well, outside of like Gran Turismo, though Gran Turismo's not that popular anymore as it once was. It's like, can Last of Us, like, I see it easily outselling all the other games. It's like Spider-Man though has that different factor, the Marvel, the comic book stuff. It's gonna be interesting battle. I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say I'll sell it in the first month, but I think Spider-Man might outsell it lifetime. If that makes any sense. I think Spider-Man will have more legs. No pun intended.
Just the fact that Last of Us is such a violent game sort of limits its appeal with younger audiences, because like that'll be adults rated and Spider-Man's teen rated presumably, right?
Yes, so that does have some effect on it. So, thanks for the question, Face. Let's see what else we got here. Thanaros wants to know. So is the Surface Dude the Windows phone you've been waiting for? I mean, it's been the phone Jez has been waiting for. I haven't. I'm not waiting for it. So,
honestly, yeah, it is. It is the Windows phone I've been waiting for, because it has inking. It has the whole differentiation factor, and it actually has apps because it runs Android.
Yeah.
So this is like the Windows phone. Like, I tell you, Rand, when it was announced, it was like a sigh of relief, because we've been covering the rumors for this thing for like 3-4 years now or something. Like, the patents for this thing have been like, all we've had are patents, like, and really grainy sort of prototype photographs that were sort of snuck out of Microsoft and stuff like that. Like, to see it in the flesh was just, for me, the most exciting thing as a tech blogger. But it just feels like everything's sort of coming back around. Like, it's not been easy to have watched Windows Phone die as a fan. So
right.
and I just know it's cool for the team too, because Panos said in an interview one time that having a phone was his holy grail. So I'm just happy for the team as well. It's just kind of cool to have seen.
So Drunken Ninja wants to know, Rand, do you think Xbox is doing VR for next gen? I'm just gonna say no. Jez?
I've heard rumors that it's possible.
Ooh, rumors that Xbox might be doing VR for next gen, according to Jez Corden. It might be possible.
Now,
might be possible.
Now this is like a whole Gizmodo thing again. Like, if something I'm saying here is, I'm saying it because I'm among friends. You guys are my friends. If I actually fully believed this, I would have written it on Windows Central and stuff like that. But I've heard rumors that there is a possibility that there might be some VR stuff in Scarlett. I personally don't think Microsoft cares about it that much, but at the same time, I just simply don't know. Like, VR expenditure is so tiny right now. It doesn't seem like Microsoft would care about it that much. But I think if they feel like there's enough demand from their core fan base, I think there's a chance they might do it. I don't personally believe, but I will say there are some rumors flying around that it could be on the way.
Interesting. 9Lives 2010 wants to know, does Fable get announced at XO19? No. If Fable gets announced, when or if it gets announced, that is an E3 announcement. It is not an announcement at XO19. you more than likely will get the new Hellblade or the new Ninja Theory game announced at XO19. Jez, what do you think?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Now you
I'm
now
I'm
you
kind
don't
of
know. Now you don't know. Okay, so
I'm kind of getting excited about XO. I have to say.
well, that goes to Gunstar's question. XO19 hyped or may? Last year's we were hyped, and then we were like, you probably shouldn't be hyped, and then yeah, it wasn't worth getting hyped about. Now you're 2 months away, or no, a month away. You're starting to be like, yeah, okay, XO19, yeah. You're starting to feel it, Chaz? What's going on?
I don't know if this is like the surface effect or something, but man, I've been hearing. I think there is excitement for XO.
They do have a lot of games, next year that they're going to be showing and stuff. Fable would be
I
huge.
want to believe.
Okay, let me ask you this question, Jez. Do you still believe that Playground's RPG that they're making is Fable?
I do.
Okay, you still believe it's Fable.
I
Okay,
do.
fair enough. Shout out to Eternal Shaddai. For the Super Chat, he says, Project xCloud was teased on Surface Duo. Will games be shared to the big screen instead of the small screen when you are visiting like a family member, etc.? Example, YouTube videos can be sent to TVs. So, like...
Oh, does he mean can you project the Surface Duo to a TV? Sorry. That is something you can currently do with Samsung. Like it's something that's possible. It depends how much Microsoft screws with the operating system, because Android, when you are using Google Play services, and Microsoft is working directly with Google for this, which is a shocker. Because the common narrative is that Google and Microsoft hate each other, but apparently Microsoft and Google love each other now. So they're working together on making the folding experience good. When you do have Google Play services, it does seem like there's a lot you can do to customize Android and Samsung. If you have a Samsung Smart TV, you can project your Samsung Galaxy Note screen directly to the TV, and I think like there is like that sort of protocol. Miracast, which just does it at a base level, but at the same time you're introducing another point of lag, so I'm not sure that would be a great experience. It's hard to say. It's probably something they're thinking about, but they also like Microsoft these days are very cognizant of what might constitute a niche use case. If they feel like not a lot of people are going to use that, and honestly they probably wouldn't, at least to start with, they might not prioritize it as a feature. So I think it's something that is possible, but if you want it, it's going to be one of those things where they say leave it in the feedback hub, So that's my take on it.
All right. JD Gamer wants to know, what Xbox studio would the Last of Us type game come from? The Last of Us type game. I would just say the Initiative. Yeah, me and Jez both agree on that.
I think like I will say, like, a lot of people often hope that Gears of War could one day get up to that level. But I think, like, as a franchise, Gears of War is a lot more comic book-like than The Last of Us, which is more Hollywood, I would say. I don't think Gears of War will ever be that sort of Last of Us style game. Because it's too cartoony. There's monsters and, over the top 80s sort of violence and chainsaw guns and stuff like that. It's a bit silly, as much as I love it, it is a bit silly. So I think like it's more like, I mean, there are literally Gears of War comics, for example. So I think it's going to be and Halo has to have a broad appeal, so it can't have those mature themes. It has to stay teen rated or whatever. I'd love to see a darker Halo spin-off. Like they could make that ODST, I think. Like Halo ODST is the 18 rated Halo or something. But the regular series has to be teen rated. So I think like the Initiative might be the one that's cleared to do this. And the location of the Initiative and the kind of developers they've been hiring kind of should give you an idea that they are trying to make a more mature game. But who knows? Who knows?
Cat, I'm just going to shorten it to Cat. He wants to know, how much is the Surface Duo? How much does it cost?
It's going to be over $1,000, I think.
Over $1,000. So make sure you guys save your money. Bomb Hater wants to know, will Microsoft buy Asobo and potentially reveal it at XO19? There's been a lot of talk about this. They've been rumored for a while. I think more so because they were working on Microsoft Flight Sim. But do you think there's some chance that Microsoft buys the developers of Plague's Tale and Microsoft Flight Sim, Jez?
That's an interesting one because Asobo very, very, very recently announced that they're extending their publishing partnership with Focus Home Interactive.
Mm-hmm.
So if they are sort of if Microsoft is buying them out of that contract, it comes at a very strange time considering Asobo just made that announcement. Maybe like the deal fell through because that it was a rumor for a long time that Asobo was going to be joining Microsoft. Maybe the deal fell through, which made Asobo decide to work more closely with Focus Home Interactive. But I don't know. I think like some of the stuff that's coming out of Flight Sim. I don't know if you've seen it,
I've
but
seen some of it, yeah.
our Matt Brown from Windows Central, he went out there to try it out. He said that it was just mind blowing. Like they're using AI and satellite data to create the world, like the entire world. And like if and they gave an example like if there's a forest fire in real life, that'll be represented in the game in real time, or at least as real time as the satellite data provides. So it's absolutely insane what Microsoft is doing with that stuff, and like that's a far more interesting use of the cloud than Crackdown's rudimentary cloud destruction physics, which honestly weren't really that much better than Red Faction Guerrilla from the 360 era. But I don't know. I think
Yeah.
Asobo could fit there, but it depends that they'd have to buy them out of whatever contract they've got with Focus Home.
Yeah, because that game probably will be years down the road. So, Indie Gamer wants to know, question, what game release are you most excited for the rest of 2019, Jazz? The one that you're most
One
excited
game?
for. Well, he says, what game release are you most excited for the rest of
Oh,
2019? So,
I
yeah.
thought you said indie game. Well, usually when people ask me these kind of questions, I say the first thing that comes to mind because it's like the my brain chose for me. The first thing I thought was Pokemon Sword and Shield. So screw you, man. Pokemon's a huge franchise and it's not even slightly embarrassing to like it.
Okay. I mean,
Okay.
fair enough. Fair enough.
And you're gonna be playing it anyway, so I don't know what you're laughing.
Fair enough.
You better stop. But
My
then like
most
Outer Worlds
anticipated.
too. Outer Worlds
Um,
as well.
for the rest of the year, my most anticipated. Honestly, probably Star Wars Jedi Jedi what is it? Star Wars Jedi Fallen Last Order, whatever the heck it's called.
Jedi Knight Fallen Order. Right?
Whatever.
Or is
Yeah,
it
like
Jedi Knight? I don't know what it's called. That's
um,
bad.
that's probably my number one. I have
More so than the Outer Worlds.
yeah, more so than the Other Worlds, more so than Call of Duty, more so than Doom Eternal. Um,
Oh god, I forgot Doom Eternal's coming out.
yeah, I don't know. Like I really like Respawn. They haven't let me down. I know it's like a different team. I like the Sekiro light aspect it seems to have with the lightsaber combat. So if I had to pick one game that was like on my most anticipated list, it definitely would be that. I mean, there was a time.
There's no dismemberment though. Isn't
Yeah, I
that
mean,
really dumb?
that's not
And
that big
annoying.
of a deal for me. But there was a time it was probably would have been Death Stranding, but yeah, some of the stuff I've seen of Death Stranding lately kind of has lowered my interest instead of like heightening my interest. But I'll still play it day one.
Why is it lowered your interest?
I don't know. Just some of the stuff just seems pretentious. It just seems boring.
Dude,
I will.
have you ever played a Kojima game before?
I've played Kojima games. Yes, I'm just there's a difference. Like Metal Gear Solid is like still a stealth tactical game with the ridiculous over the top story and characters and stuff. I don't know. Like will walking around like reconnecting points on a map be that fun? We'll find out on November 8th, I guess.
I'm really excited for Death Stranding. But like other than that, it's like I actually forgot about half of these games just because I've been so like focused on certain things at work. But outside of games, there's like BlizzCon to look forward to. Paradox has an event as well in October, or is it November? I don't know. But Paradox has an event too, which is all about strategy games, stuff like that. So there's still a lot to look forward to for the rest of the year, and then we've got XO as well, of course.
I did get a review code today for a game I was looking forward to.
What's that?
The Bradwell conspiracy comes out next
Oh
week.
right. Can you
So,
tell me about that?
I mean, I don't really know much about it. I mean, I watched a few trailers. It seems kind of like a first-person puzzler, like Portal-ish kind of game. I don't know. Like from the trailers I've seen, it made it looks really cool. So I got a code for it today, and I am really kind of excited to actually test it out. See what the game is. Like I think it looks pretty cool. So, I'll be playing that pretty soon. One Bad Mother wants to know, will Xbox console see Gears Tactics in 2020? So next year, will Gears Tactics be on the console, Jez?
I don't know if it's launching next year. I would hope so, because it's been quite a while since it was announced, and it doesn't a game to release. I mean, it's they've got the formula down already. It's just XCOM. So I would hope that next year. But it's weird that we haven't heard anything from it. I would expect XO19 is where we start to hear more about that.
I wonder if maybe they're kind of waiting until they can maybe have the Xbox version ready to go at the same time. Maybe that's, like I know they released Gears Pop and Gears 5 at the same time, and maybe it's like, okay, Gears Tactics wasn't going to be ready, and why would you want to also release that game at the same time when people would just play Gears 5? So Gears Tactics probably comes out next year. We do know it's coming to Xbox. Is it coming at the same time as PC? That's kind of been the discussion. Maybe it's in the best interest for them to hold on both and just release them at the same time, or maybe, who knows? Like you said, XO19 would be a good place to re-debut the game. Show off a lot more, because we haven't seen like any gameplay from that game really. We've seen like snippets of 10 seconds of gameplay.
Yeah.
So,
and like I love XCOM so much. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I still haven't actually completed XCOM 2 because it's so bloody hard. But XCOM well, it wasn't the first XCOM game, but XCOM Enemy Within and Unknown on the 360. God, I got so many hours in those games. So I'm pretty excited for that. But yeah, I think we might hear about it at XO. I would expect, and maybe a bit of Age of Empires, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah.
Maybe.
The Geeky Nerd wants to know, couldn't Coalition get another IP?
Oh, that's an interesting question, isn't it, Rand?
That is very interesting, because I'm of the opinion that their next game isn't a Gears game.
Is that just an opinion?
That's just an opinion based on things I've heard. But I don't think Gears 6 is their next game. I think Gears 6 is some time away, and I think they'll do something else in between. As for what it is, maybe it's a new IP, maybe it's an old resurrected IP. Who knows, Jazz? Do you have any thoughts on this?
I have no thoughts whatsoever.
No thoughts whatsoever. You had thoughts about like XO19 and Fable and all this stuff, but suddenly you have no thoughts on this, huh?
I have no thoughts on this whatsoever.
You have no thoughts whatsoever. Interesting. Okay, fair enough. I guess we'll only have to.
It would be interesting.
It definitely. I would like the Coalition to see what they can do outside of Gears. I would like to see that team, and I honestly, it's like, you know what? Same thing with like 343. Like, like Halo's a big franchise, true, and I don't want Halo to go away. But it does is like, what else could you do? And I look at the Coalition, I'm like, they stepped up their game from Gears 4 to Gears 5. They've really impressed me with everything, the improvement they've made. They got some work to do with the microtransaction stuff, but that's outside of this. And I look at it, I'm like, man, what could they do if they weren't kind of held to the Gears formula? You know what I mean? Like, Gears has to move this way. Gears has to shoot this way. Gears has to look this way. You're kind of bound by the parameters of the franchise, right? Yeah. But what if you were free of that? What if you didn't have to be bound by any of that, and you could just kind of do something new where you weren't? Because even like Rod has mentioned, like, oh, well, we're kind of bound by the structure of Gears as a franchise, so we have to do these things. But what if you weren't? I think that'd be really cool. And I think would be interesting in the sense of, like, you give this Gears game time to breathe, right? And you don't immediately come back to it 3 years from now. Like, 2022, You don't actually return to it for Gears 6. You let Gears breathe a little bit, give it more of that kind of. You let people actually miss it. You know, like, that's one of the reasons why people are so excited for Halo. Why people really get excited for a new Grand Theft Auto. Why Last of Us 2 is so look forward to. Because they don't come out that often anymore. So it's like, you give that time for Gears, and you make it 6 years from now, people start to miss the franchise, and then they get even more hype for it. And in the meantime, you release a different game. I think it works out perfectly. And, you know,
Sounds like you should be a a studio director, and
almost,
you've got this strategy pretty down, man.
it'd be cool. You know, we'll see what happens, but we appreciate all the question, guys, everybody hanging out here in chat. If you guys enjoyed the show, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. And I think we're gonna end it there. You know, I think we went on for a little bit over 2 hours. A lot to talk about, and we will be back next week, right, Jez?
Yes. I don't see why not.
Okay. I think
Yes.
I you know what I'm going to do? I am going to not only finish Ghost Recon this weekend, I'm going to go see the Joker.
Ooh. I would love
know.
to see the Joker, but the nearest English-speaking cinema is like 200 miles away.
Yeah. So I'm going to go see the Joker probably
I'm gonna
not
finish
today,
The Last of Us.
probably tomorrow. Jez is going to finish The Last of Us, and we will be back next week with a brand new show, you know, more topics and stuff. And we'll see you all then. So until then, happy gaming, guys.
We love you.